What vocabulary do ESP learners need? This question is basically what drives research into vocabulary and English for specific purposes. However, according to Avril Coxhead, this question is simply the primer of the many questions that will arise about the kind of ESP the learners are focused on. To Coxhead, it is rather a complex area of research which spans a wide range of teaching and research endeavors. In this presentation, I will try to lay down Coxhead's examination of definitions of specialized or technical vocabulary, different approaches to conceptualizing vocabulary and ESP, and challenges for bringing ESP research on vocabulary into classrooms. The vocabulary in ESP is simply the terms that usually refer to the vocabulary of a particular area of a study or a professional use. These are specialized words that are expected to belong to a particular area in a university or to a professional discipline. This means that while some would have basic or general knowledge of these terms, the people who belong to such are expected to use the language adeptly. Why is vocabulary in ESP important? First, since time is precious in the classroom, instructional materials and output should contain key concepts and language that are directly related to their needs. Second, if the learners are to become practitioners on a certain field, learning and understanding the purposes of vocabulary would show their affiliation to that group. There are two fundamental perspectives on language for specific purposes according to Bestergman. The first one posits that English has a common core of words all learners should know. It means that specialization begins once learners establish that common core. The other approach conceptualizes all language as being for specific purposes, which means that specialization should begin early. Between these two, Coxhead wrote that the latter is easier to conceptualize and operationalize in a learning context where all students are in the same system, the same age, with shared first language and language goals. But teachers whose students have a mixed academic purposes is a different story. There are ways for identifying vocabulary for ESP. Although Reed said that they lack systematicity, and Nation wrote that there were few statistical studies available. To consult experts in a particular field to help identify technical vocabulary is one of them. Smith suggested that technical dictionaries may well have been developed using this method. He, however, named various challenges with this method, which include the fact that several experts might produce different lists depending on variables like level of knowledge of the subject, systematicity of their approach to developing the list, and how difficult it is to identify technical words. The next one is to use a scale. For example, Chung and Nation devised a 4-step scale to categorize technical vocabulary in applied linguistics and in anatomy textbooks. In the first step, for example, in anatomy, the scale represents words with meanings that have no specific connection to a subject area. The second step contains words which are minimally related to the subject area. Step 3 has more closely related words, and the step 4 presents closely related to the technical subject area. In this scale, they found out that 1 in every 3 words in the anatomy text was technical, compared in 5 in the applied linguistics text. It means that the variation in technical vocabulary between the two subject areas suggests that professionals in anatomy face a higher vocabulary learning challenge than those in applied linguistics. It then suggested that the latter was more accessible for its readership than the anatomy text. A corpus is a body of text of written or spoken language, an authentic text commonly used for the purpose of research like newspapers, novels, recipes, conversation, etc. It was said that corpus studies have contributed a lot in the quest to identify and understand more about specialized vocabulary, and that they have been useful in developing word lists for use in language classrooms and for independent studies. For example, Crawford demonstrated how corpus-based research could provide a different approach to identifying vocabulary in ESP. She divided the words in her business studies lecture corpus into 5 main semantic categories, where these categories used several corpora to compare her findings, including a more widely based corpus of different academic disciplines. The point is, a researcher who wants to identify lists of words or expressions for an ESP class or for his field, say in the field of economics, may conduct a corpus-based study where semantic categories may be drawn from authentic materials such as written reports and other documents related to the field. Cox had said that key or difficult concepts in a lecture might well be expressed through metaphor. Students who are not able to follow metaphors are likely to misunderstand the lecture or not understand the key points at all. Snadger examined the use of war, health, and sports metaphors in a business English textbook corpus and a business journal article, and found implications for how learners responded to metaphor in language and in thought. She pointed out that approaches to specialist vocabulary instruction through conceptual metaphors are necessary to enhance students' understanding of the discipline. Littlemore, however, suggested that teaching second language speakers to recognize and understand metaphor in academic lectures is no luxury in ESP classes. Coxhead wrote that more and more research was being carried out into multi-word units in ESP. For instance, Pina's study on dentistry examined words on their own as well as clusters of 2 and 3 words together. Crawford, on the other hand, found some interesting examples of word compounds in her corpus of 12 business lectures. The thing is, with more and more studies, a great deal can be discovered about the kinds of multi-word units needed by EAP and ESP learners. Cox had noted that one difficulty with identifying vocabulary for ESP is what to do with everyday words that take on a particular meaning in a specialized context. These everyday words with specialized meanings could present some difficulties for teachers as learners struggle to learn new meanings and concepts for words that are already established in their lexicon in a particular way. Another reason why vocabulary in ESP can be challenging, according to Crawford, is that specialized vocabulary evolves and renews itself depending upon the changing interests within communities of practice. Harding noted that the purpose and methods of any corpus study need to be clear first to teachers before they bring the research findings into the classroom. Bird and Cox had listed some questions that teachers and students might use to find out more specialized words. These are: was the list derived from written and spoken corpora? What kinds of texts were included in the corpus? Are they representative of the reading of undergraduate or postgraduate learners? What principles of selection were used? And how has the list been evaluated? Nation, on the other hand, outlined the kinds of knowledge learners need for understanding and using words. Form and meaning, or how is the word written and spelled, and what word form can be used to express this meaning. Concepts and reference and associations, or what items can these concepts refer to. Grammatical function, or what patterns must we use this word. Collocations, or what words or types of words must we use with this one. Constraints of use or register frequency, or when, where, and how often can we use the word. A challenge for teachers and learners is ensuring that these kinds of learning are given attention as well as time and opportunity to develop. According to Nation, one way to approach this teaching and learning problem is to apply Nation's 4 strands to create a balanced vocabulary program. Nation's 4 strands are focused input, focused output, focused learning, and fluency development. Nation recommends that teachers consider these strands when designing vocabulary activities for the classroom. As Cox had noted, a great deal of research effort has gone into considering the nature of specialized vocabulary. This effort, however, and I agree, does not equate in any way to the efforts that teachers and learners make when teaching and learning vocabulary for ESP. In the end, she suggested that future research might focus on the nature of multi-word units in different subjects and contexts than ESP, more research into vocabulary in ESP in languages other than English, and the development and use of multimodal corpora in this fast-moving field.